Hey guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. My nickname is iFacePalm, and in this episode we're going to take a closer look at the WoT Tank, German super heavy tank, the one and only mouse. I was kindly asked to review this super monster and to give some tips and pointers on how to most effectively use this tank's armor. We will be looking into whether if it's worth grinding for, how its statistics look. We're going to make a tank comparison against its closest brother, or a tank that at least is similar in many aspects. We're going to do an armor profile rundown with focus on its weak spots and its strengths. In addition, we're going to have a couple of gameplay replays, which will give you an idea on how this tank can most effectively be used. And finally, I will finish up with a quick sum up and my rating of this super heavy tank. The mouse back in the days was the first tier 10 tank to be introduced to World of Tanks together with the Soviet IS-7. So the question is, how is it today? Yes, it was buffed not that many years ago. Actually, it ended being overbuffed as suddenly the most competitive team started to use them. Yeah, so what happened then was nerfed just as quickly. They buffed temporarily to 3200 HP and then they quickly put it back to 3000 alongside some other minor nerfs. But that's several years ago. So as the remaining tanks are developing, we are seeing new tanks in the game. Is this tank any competitive now? And if you already have this tank, you might have noticed that everyone is firing gold at you. So is this tank armor anything worth? In my honest opinion, this tank excels with two playstyles, and I'll show you guys two replays I just recently had where I took upon these roles. Let me make it clear, this tank is super situational. You cannot really change the flanks and you will always be expected to go to the heavy line. So the amount of options you have is very limited. Also, you are an arty magnet, and yes, you should expect that the majority, if not all of the players, will either be firing gold or high explosive shells on you. So, how is this tank even worth playing, as it solely focuses on its armor and HP? The crew that I'm using primarily focused on repair skill. You will be tracked a lot, so that is definitely a high recommendation. For the equipment, I have chosen super heavy spore liner, and this is to reduce all the damage that you will receive from high explosive, either from other tanks or from artillery. For the second equipment, I have extra turbocharger. I have previously played it with optics, but in this current meta, I feel that I get more out of the turbocharger. This tank needs to move all the time. I need to make it hard for the enemy to shoot at me, so that extra horsepower per ton gives you that little extra chance to be able to use your armor properly. And for the third equipment, I use like gun runner. Ammunition wise, 32, 36. So let's take a look at the grind. The first tank you will reach that has very similar playstyle as the mouse is the VK100-01P. This tank, in my opinion, is very good. It will teach you how to effectively ricochet the shells. It's a very good tank, and I have often seen it in clan wars. The VK100 playstyle shares a lot of similarities with the mouse. Those two tanks are extremely similar, besides that the tier of course is different. Yeah, the Martian, yeah, it wants to be similar, but it's not. This gigantic cupola becomes a weak spot. So whether this tank is worth grinding for, the quick answer would be, do you enjoy the VK100? Do you enjoy the tank? Do you enjoy the playstyle? If you do, then the mouse will most likely be something for you. But keep in mind that to be successful in the mouse, you need to perfect your skills with the VK100, because everything will get way tougher and way harder, because you will meet way better players. Where the VK100 can, as top tier, just YOLO through the whole enemy team with the correct angling and usage of the tank, the mouse is way more skill requiring, especially because you cannot reposition, you don't have the speed to move around, and people will switch to gold ammunition and or high explosive shells. Okay, let's take a look at the tank statistics, including its armor profile. Let's start with the weapon rate: 2210 DPM, 490 alpha damage per shot, 246 penetration. If you choose to go for the APCR shells, you will have 311 penetration and also a good increase of the shell velocity. Instead of 920, 1150. 246 penetration will be tricky to use because you will have to find the exact weak spot of the enemy heavy tanks that most likely you will encounter directly. So a lot of players are playing with the APCR shells as a default. The reload time is 13.3 seconds, good aim time 2.1 seconds, 0.36 dispersion. Each shell will cost you 1070 and the premium will cost you 4800. The top speed, yes, 20 an hour. Quick note guys, it doesn't help that anyone is pushing you unless you have like maybe 2 or 3 very big tanks trying to push you. Maybe they will be able to buff you up to the 21 or 22 km an hour. This is also one of the reasons why I put a turbocharger on, just to get that little extra. Power to weight 9.26, gun depression 8 degrees, and a 8-degree gun depth. Armor wise, the whole armor is 200, 185, 160, and the turret armor we have 260, 210, 210. So on paper this looks good, but it's only good if the angling is correct, because if you do not angle it, every tank will just shoot through you like it was butter. HP wise, 3000 health. Yes, 3000. You will definitely need it. If you're in 400. Camouflage wise, yeah. 190 tons monster. There's not many tanks that are as big as the mouse. The camo values are not very surprising. Okay, let's compare it against the other German super heavy tank, the E100. The E100 has the option of two guns, the 12.8 centimeters and the 15 centimeter. Personally, I use the 750 alpha damage for my E100. Okay, so the mouse, it has around 440 worst DPM. It has less alpha damage as E100 was buffed. The reload time is also worse. The aim time is better and the dispersion during moving. Tank traverse, turret traverse. This is important because this tank shouldn't stand still. When you are in the front line, you need to be moving all the time. So these values matter. Top speed wise, the E100 is faster. The amount of horsepower doesn't really matter that much because of the weight difference. Power to weight ratio is nearly identical. Gun elevation and the gun depression is better. Armor wise, compared to the E100, 200, 120, 150. Also in the turret armor, 260, 210, 210 and 270, 150, 150. So yes, the E100 is a more mobile, super heavy tank, less armor and 300 less HP. But it is more agile and you have the option to choose the 750 alpha damage gun. If you compare it with the bigger gun, the 15 centimeter, I must say the 750 alpha damage that the E100 has, it's actually a nice gun. Okay, let's take a look at the armor profile. Behold the magnificent 190 tons of monster. Let's take a look. Keep in mind, when you play against tier 10, it's not very rare that enemy will actually be firing at you shells that maybe have 330 or more penetration. As you see here guys, this place here with the machine gunners, we are down at 270 millimeters. Here of course, yeah, it's very well armored with around 500 values, 700. As you see this machine gunners, you might be thinking, what about these ears up here? Can I just shoot them? The shell will just fly through. So what about here? Again, nothing special and nothing special. Down here, 290. Still nothing special because it's less than 300. Now we're talking 600. So you guys notice that? The shell will first fly through here and then again will hit the armor. Because the shell first have to penetrate the first layer of armor and then fly and hit the next. This actually causes this to be spaced armor of 60 millimeters. So what about here? 270 millimeter, 150. So let's take a look at the side. Yeah. I must say it's quite still impressive for 230mm armor, but compared to like the i7, which has the most insane turret armor in the game, this isn't anything special. What about here? This whole gigantic green area, 185, and you are so slow. This is like penetration every single time. And you take a look over here. Ooh, suddenly we get up to the values. What is this? Check this extra layer here. So here guys, check here. Here's nothing, but when we go down here, extra spaced armor. And if we take a look on the rear, and here you have around 180 millimeters of armor in the rear. If you're lucky, you can see on the armor profile here, it's actually angled and it's actually angled also here. But if you encounter this tank from the front and you are able to get the enemy to shoot right underneath here, you can see here your armor increases drastically. Yes, it has armor some places, but the tank is gigantic. Is it any worth? Here's the thing guys, if we just angle it slightly, see what happens to the armor. So now we're reaching at 300 degrees. So what about if we just continue further? 300 in the lower plate, and 320, 330, 320. Closer plate and 370 millimeter here. The lower plate, around 300 here, yeah, and even on the side of the side scraping part. This is where the mouse excels. You need always to think about how you are angling your armor. Then you might be thinking, what about the turret then? The turret starts to be yellow here. That's the thing, with the mouse there's a special playstyle with, similar to the E100. After you shoot, you need to turn your turret. You just fire a shot and then you move your turret. There you go. When you have reloaded, you move your turret back again, take a shot and you move it back again. The enemy will only have the chance to hit the yellow spot when you're going to fire. But keep in mind, you're moving back and forth while you're doing this. When you master this, you can become really good at bouncing most of the shells. So let's take a look. How many millimeters of armor does your enemy now need to suddenly go through? 300? So unless they shoot exactly here guys, and keep in mind this tank is moving, if they shoot here, there will be a bounce. Rear of the turret, that shell is also going to bounce. So in this position guys, this tank excels. And as you see, suddenly no armor, and suddenly a fortress. This tank excels in side scraping guys. To give you guys a quick visual, we fire a shell from this angle, and then as soon as we fire, we move the turret. You move the whole turret. You can try to bait them to shoot at you while keeping it moving like this, while your whole hull moves simultaneously. The enemy tanks are going to directly look at. Can they shoot at your lower plate? If you're not showing that one, then they will look at this spot here. This is the area where suddenly the armor is not angled. And that means it will be its weak spot right there. So if you encounter yourself a mouse, if you go after this one, you have the chance that you will hit this area here. That is a guaranteed bounce. But keep in mind, this area here you will be shot at. Okay, let's take a look how it performs on the... So here we are facing 4 heavy tanks. We're going to face the 60 TP IS-7, Object 277 and the Type 5 Heavy. My initial thought is that, okay, I feel quite confident that the Type 5 Heavy, the IS-7 and the 60 TP, we're most likely going to find that. The Object 277 is very fast, so I'm not certain we're going to find it there. It could go maybe to the medium line, we don't know. Let's see how it will turn out. As you guys notice, my top speed, we are reaching around 24 kilometers an hour. This is due to the turbo charger or turbo boost turbo module that have mounted on this gigantic tank. If you're wondering about the camera I have picked for this tank, it's because everyone seems to fire artillery at me or high explosives, so I think it's a good indicator of what I should expect. I'm a bit worried about if there will be any tanks on the A line at this spot here. I was hoping that, but there we go, we see the Type 5 Heavy. Okay. Shell in. And we'll stick directly 498 damage from an 80 shell from the Object 277. I-7 hits over 118 high explosive. Get a shot into him. Nice, 524 damage for the Object 277. Trying to bait some shots in. And high explosive. That's not really, yeah, what to do about it. There we go, blocked another one. Strange part is that even you saw that I get the block notification. If I look at how much damage I have blocked currently, it indicates 0 damage. Because it's high explosive. Taking some punishment from the artillery. So, I'm thinking, okay, let's get into side scraping. Side scraping now. So I need to angle the armor. I don't want them to find my lower plate. Come on. Opportunities, and I can put a shell into him. It's a bit tricky because with this tank you cannot really look at the enemy very often, meaning as soon as you fire you need to turn the turret away, because your turret is like the weak spot as long as you're looking at the enemy. Okay, the I-7 is coming in. Is he going to poke? But 750 damage. Bounced off. But still doesn't count as blocked because it's on high explosive ship. And another one, 750, bounced off. Can we take the third one? Yeah. Yep. And he got punished. Good, we got the artillery support. Nice. Checking my rear if I got support. Nope. I'm alone here. Got around the same health, but I know there's more than one tank over there. The Object 430U is a one-shot. The Type 4, well, the Type 5 Heavy. Oh, now definitely not a two-shot anymore. There we go. they got the projector 65, which you can fire 4 shells into, so I'm a bit worried about that. He's looking away. Yeah. 496 damage hit. As you guys saw in the beginning of the match, we took quite some punishment. And then suddenly when we get into our more into the calmer position, where we can, where enemy already realizes, okay, now we are really properly side scraping. The enemy just seems to lose interest in us. The artillery didn't, but hey, when do they ever lose their interest? But luckily we were able to bounce the shells. The thing is that when you look at the statistics after the match, even I got the indicator that I bounced those shells, it doesn't count as you bounced. It's a strange mechanic in my opinion. You guys most likely have noticed that many times someone shoots at you, maybe like kicks you, it doesn't count as block damage. Yeah, let's see if we can let's see if we can get a last shot in. We're not the fastest one, but we did our job. We held the ground there. We did 3,200 damage and 78. So this is like one of the ways that you can play the mouse. Let's take a look at the second replay where I took a completely different role. Okay guys, so here we are on Muravanka. This is the second replay I picked. And in the first replay, we saw the place where the mouse feels at home. It excels in close quarter combat, and here we are on an open map. So the initial plan is very easy for us to begin with, because the heavy tanks always goes around this 2 line here, and the enemy tanks will be over here. There will be some TDs at C1, and most likely some tank destroyers also at the A3. Most likely there will be some medium or some fast tank at the tower over there, and the medium tanks usually goes to this spot here. But directly we notice that on the 890 flank we barely have any tanks, and we just got spotted that even the enemy heavy tanks are actually moving that spot. So like stuck with a slight dilemma now, because I know I see already our comrades here are already escaping, so this corner is already lost. They're running for their life directly. So yes, I could continue pushing here, but is it really worth it at this current stage? Because this line here is already broken, and if I do not aid here, we already have lost this game. So I decide, okay, you know what? My team relies on me. Let's take a more defensive role. So yes, I know the enemy tanks that will be around this H8, J8 and K8 line, and everyone will have a shot at me now. If you look at the location I am, I'll just zoom out here. It's like, yeah, how you go? Every single tank can just hit me from that direction. I'm aware of that, so this is also why I'm trying to find like proper angling. So if there will be a shell, someone shooting from this direction, they will have problems hitting me, and the same from the other angles. And of course this tank needs to keep mobile. You need to keep moving this tank. You don't want them to hit you this area or this or here at the turret. Okay, let's take a look. Continuously. We got spotted. So yeah, the mouse is special to play with, because you need to keep a tank mobile that's not very mobile, and as soon as you normally, well, in general, when you fire a shell, you need directly to move your turret away, so you need to look away from the enemy. It's annoying after some time, but it's doable. And bouncing. Got a shot in from bad shot. Found the weak spots. I can't move. Come on, there we go. Okay, moving away, bounce again. So what's the whole plan here? Why am I just taking the shots in? I'm hoping that at the K line, that while everyone is focused on me, it will give us some time, also some ground. But we can see if we can get advantage, because currently this is not looking good. So already starting to cap now. Just reinforced my decision to stay back. So the whole plan for me currently has been, I want to stop the enemy team from rushing us. And by everyone just trying to get a shot into me, that's a really good way to get them actually to stop them moving further in. We got a shot into the Badger, and he's gone. As you guys see, we blocked 2,240 damage already, and we have still 1,808 life left. Can we get a shot into the object? A bit worried about this EBR, because yeah, if the EBR starts to circle me, yeah, there's not really much you can do. Hoping the EBR will be killed somehow. Can we get a shot in? Can we get a shot in? It's faster than my turret traverse. Okay, it's good. And we got a nice advantage now, guys. So now it's all about just pushing through. Get more shots. I just I am like a lead magnet, or like a everyone just feel free to fire on me. The chances that they're going to pen me versus our other tanks is very, very low. So get that one in. So, the role that we are taking here, guys, it's more like a steel wall, as you notice. I'm not even so interested in whether I do damage or not. I'm really like giving a gigantic support to the team by just absorbing the shells or taking the hits. You see, the enemy team completely, slightly ignores me. That bounces my side again. As you guys see, that guy was lucky, just well played by the guy that just tracked me, also just be running into him. And yeah, what an explosion. And that guy also dies. There we go, guys. $1,155 spotting and 4,950 blocked. 516 damage. So the replay really shows how big support you can be towards your team, and how can you support them best in such a scenario where you just act like a meat shield. Shot into the I-7. There you go, guys. 1,066 damage, 4,950 blocked, and 1,155 spotting. So here we are, guys, the mighty mouse. So what do I think of it? Is it enjoyable? It has its moments. The problem for me is that it's extremely situational tank. Even with the turbocharger, we can at best reach a top speed of 24 an hour. It has a good reverse speed for the size of it. It's nearly just as fast for reverse, but it is a gigantic monster. And knowing that every single artillery is going to fire at you, and the enemy is going to fire gold or high explosive, it can get frustrating. If you don't angle your armor perfectly, then people will take advantage of it, especially at tier 10. yes, you can have a fantastic games in the tank, especially if you're top tier. If you have a problem with some of the campaign missions, then the mouse is a fantastic tank. And also the missions where you need to receive amount of damage, and also you need to deal amount of damage, and you need to bounce a certain amount of damage. So it's like 12,000, 14,000 damage combined. That's where the mouse excels. There are a few very good tanks that are able to bounce a lot of shells for missions. The VK4502B, it's a very good tank to bounce for. The VK100, very good for TA tank. The motion, because of the cupola, I simply don't like it. It completely destroys the tank in my opinion. Yes, the E100, it's a more mobile tank, but if you're purely talking about bouncing as many shells as possible, then the VK101, the VK4502, and the Panzerkampfwagen 7 would be to recommend. So how many face palms would I give the mouse? I really like mobile tanks. I really don't like that suddenly I will go to a heavy corner and I suddenly realize, wow, I'm the only guy here. Or we are maybe 2 or 3 tanks, and then suddenly we are facing 7 or 8 enemy heavy tanks. You just know what's coming. You know how it's going to look in 3-4 minutes. I have had, of course, games where I'm like a solo versus 3 tanks, and they all like, you know, trying to destroy my tank. You know, I'm bouncing to my rear, my side, my turret, you know, every single part just like bouncing in all directions. You know, that is awesome. But I have just had also so many games where it feels like I have no armor whatsoever. How many face palms would I give the mouse? I would give it 2 face palms. If it was even fast, let's say it had the speed of a E100, it would definitely receive a 3 face. But because of the speed and because it's so situational, I will give it 2. Okay guys, I think that summed up the review for the mouse. I would like to thank again for the tank request. Thanks a lot for watching guys. This was my review number 7. I hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know what you think of the mouse in the comments below. And if you like to see more crazy content from my side, feel free to leave a like or even subscribe. It's a big thumbs up for me and I appreciate it a lot. Cheers guys, take care and see you next time.